Well, welcome everybody to the Lifting the Veil podcast for this episode. I am so pleased and honored to have a friend and colleague, Tallisha Nice, and I just want to give a quick share a little bit about her through her bio. But she's an incredible healer, and she is has had an all-encompassing 25-year background in traditional Western medicine, I believe, as a nurse. And she'll tell us more about this today. She faced some significant health issues that really transformed her life and her whole approach to health and Western medicine, and alternative healing modalities. And in her journey, she shifted to a more holistic or natural health approach. And now she's helping tons of other people in her work and using energy healing devices and biofeedback systems. And she's developed a process of putting the puzzle pieces together for individuals who might have had real difficulty identifying the source of their ill health or the symptoms that they're suffering from to achieve whole body health. And Tallisha has a passion for furthering her research into a more expansive frequency sound healing modalities and continues to explore more integrative approaches. And so I had the joy of meeting Tallisha, gosh, I want to say maybe 2 months ago. And I was so excited because many of you might know that I am an energy healer, a life coach, a hypnotherapist. And so I'm really interested in what I call integrative healing. That's what I called it through my own journey, doing my own spiritual healing and finding out that there, until we get to know all the parts of ourselves, it's hard to be all online and access all of our power and our health and our innate wisdom that our body holds if we listen, if we know how to talk to it just right. So Tallisha, so glad to have you. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking your time from your clients and being willing to share what you do with my audience.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very honored myself.
Oh, you're sweet. Okay, so so I guess I'm just personally fascinated with the work that you do and how you got to the point where you didn't necessarily dismiss Western science, but you found that maybe Western, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, you can tell me better, but perhaps Western science had some blind spots.
Yeah.
She's
definitely, definitely left me lacking what I needed truly and had no idea of. So would you like me just to begin?
Yeah. So you can just, tell me a little bit about your story, because, for a lot of us on our healing journey, and I'm sure you might agree, is like, it's not until we have to do all the research for ourselves and find out what really works that we can then share it with other people. So I think your story is pretty key to the path you're on now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say my, growing up wasn't very traditional, and quite a bit of trauma that I share with a lot of people in the world. Yeah. Everybody's got a portion of trauma. I dealt with it my whole life, and basically there were points along the way that I didn't recognize until much later. So I threw myself into the medical field after a pretty traumatic childhood. At 20, I was septic and didn't even realize what that had meant at the time and what that had been doing to my organs, my liver in particular.
Mm.
And, just kind of got kicked from the hospital as a 20-year-old and went about my business working 2 or 3 jobs in Southern California to support, myself. Um, and got married young, uh, had a baby, and threw myself into the medical field at that point, purely on survival. Learned a lot. I was in a lot of different places in the medical field. Just kind of stayed in my lane in each one of them, kind of exploring where I wanted to be, what I enjoyed, uh, and mostly found that the forefront is where I liked to be. I liked to make people comfortable with their experience. So a long journey there. Uh, Found myself in the middle of a divorce and raising 2 girls on my own with an extensive background history with alcoholism in my family.
Mm.
um, Eventually turned to alcohol as a point of numbing myself. So, working and being an active alcoholic is what I would call it.
Yeah.
um, it finally caught up with me. And there was a point where I didn't know what was happening to my body. I hadn't studied that realm yet of exactly what was breaking down in my liver, through a lifetime of emotions, medical things that came along the way that we don't even have time to discuss. But now, in
Yeah.
retrospect, I can see exactly what was happening to my body, and my soul. And it just came a point where I hit the floor one morning on my way to work. I was running a pretty huge facility, uh, on and I just looked up and I said, God, help me. I'm going to kill myself or somebody else. I was at the point where um, drinking had kind of taken over, and I could make it through work, but no further past that until I went back to work. And it was about a week before I was in the hospital and misdiagnosed a few times. I was in complete liver failure by January of 2018, and I was given a few months to live. I've got
Wow.
one daughter in college in Eugene, Oregon, and I've got one daughter still living with me in high school. And I went home to die. I was sent home by the same, you know, medical, um, you know,
But,
this
faculty
everything
to
I
serve.
knew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was sent home pretty much to die. And it led me on a bit of a journey, where I ended up meeting a man, who did biofeedback and worked with frequency.
Mm.
And it was a last ditch resort. I had to be carried up there. I had, I was basically not able to walk or talk or understand words anymore. It was all jumbled together. I could hear it. It just didn't make any sense. Um, Showering, everything was a challenge. Walking, um, and they did what they were doing, and he looked over at me and he put his hand on my knee, and he looked in my eyes and he said, "You're not going to die. You're going to live." And that's from that point on, that's what clicked with me. I stepped out of that office that day and started living. If I could remember my supplements, that that was the first stages, and I just kept it going for months. I started by rebuilding my stomach. I was depleted of every nutrient I had in me, all the minerals that enable our cells to talk through electricity. I had none, so of course I couldn't comprehend anything. It took me a few months, and I came back to him, and I volunteered for him for 8 months. I wanted to know everything he knew about what he did and what this was all about. So I started my journey. It's been a 4 or 5 year journey, throwing myself into school for different nutritional things, biofeedback, rifing, just anything, to further my knowledge in this, because it saved my life. So there was a definite pathway there of rebuilding my stomach and then rebuilding my soul. And I didn't realize what I was doing at the time. I
Yeah.
started by listening to 432, the frequency, and just letting it play through the house, which I still do to this day.
Mm.
It started reconnecting things for me that my body had forgotten, through frequency, through waking those frequencies up that we all have in our body that are kind of polluted. Uh, and that's how I started healing and coming back to life in a whole new form that I hadn't known before. It was like I reconnected with who I was when I came, when I was born.
Yeah.
I could feel all of that again. It was brand new, and it's been a very enlightening journey. And every step of the way is a learning experience. I'm healing every day. So
Yeah, well, it sounds like a miracle. It's almost like you asked, and and it was delivered, and
right.
you were pulled out of the jaws of death, literally. And that's a miracle, right? Mm.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely something there with an energy exchange and the vibration. It's you ask and you shall receive. It is true, and a bit scary on the other side because
Because then you have to
you
take
don't
responsibility,
realize,
right?
yeah, you don't realize how hard that's going to be.
Yeah,
Because the physical healing is one thing, but the emotional healing and the mental can be a lifetime. It really
yeah.
can, and it's the hardest part is facing all the stuff that you were trying to make go away. The
Avoid,
pain.
yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, when you consider that dying is probably harder because you have to leave the planet, so it's like, they say the only way out is through. Um, and I think, and I'm sure from your experience of meeting with so many of your clients that the fear of the pain is worse than the actual being present with it, because at
Right,
the end of the day it's your life energy which was rejected because it seemed not okay.
right.
Yeah, so it's like welcoming home all those beautiful pieces of you that were judged as not acceptable or not lovable, or and it's like a homecoming, on a certain level, which is gorgeous if you can look at it that way, I guess. Right.
Oh, definitely, definitely. There is a point in time in that experience that um, you do experience where you do know fully your purpose, what you're here for, the ground beneath you. Nothing around you matters anymore. You are so connected that
Yeah.
death isn't even scary. It's you accept. There's an acceptance and a beautiful acceptance because all of a sudden you know.
Yeah.
And it is sad because you have to leave now that you know, because you don't know the next step of healing, but it just happens. It really does. Once you start on the way becomes very clear and things fall into place as they should be. There is no effort past that.
And I'm so glad that you're here with me having this conversation today, because I was just on a call with 5 coaches, and 3 of us out of 5 have had somebody leave recently the planet, out of, self-destructive, whether it was actually like taking their life or just their lifestyle choices eventually caused the circumstances for them to leave. And it's just like, wow, is that just because it's in our little group? But that's 3 out of 5 people. Um, it's seems that so many people just don't have access, or aren't even aware of all the wonderful um, different modalities, and that really it's your health isn't separate from your heart, your spirit, and your soul.
Hmm. yes, we all vibrate. So we're
Yeah,
all vibrating at a certain vibration, and we know that substances and toxins can bring that vibration down. You
yeah,
vibrate below a certain vibration, and I think it's 80. I can't remember the exact scale, but you are actually inviting disease in. You vibrate above, and disease cannot get in. That's disharmony of our body. You put
literally.
that vibration back together,
Hmm.
um, and your body will start doing the work. It remembers how to do it. We did it without us, so without all the input. Um, so that's what frequency work does. It actually opens the pathways. It opens the pathways for your cells to remember um,
Yeah,
how
literally.
they vibrate.
Remember.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And soon as you start vibrating in coherence, then
Yeah.
everything else becomes incoherent. So it's it's very powerful, very powerful.
It seems almost like magic, but it's just the magic of the intelligence of life when it's allowed to fully uh, be embodied and expressed and recognized for what it is. Like, you know how they say that physician heal thyself,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes.
And that our brain is like the biggest pharmacy on the planet, right?
Right. There is something, and the most powerful, I believe, part of my particular story is it was the mind change that got me there first. It just was a thought.
Yeah.
Somebody told me I was dying, so I went home to die. Somebody told me I was living, so I went home to live. Something within me, of course, had to push that, but
Yeah.
it was possible. It's with the mind, it's always with the head. It starts right there. It's everything we feed ourselves is what makes our vibration start to not vibrate in coherence with our body. So
Yeah.
it's the first part. It's the first part.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people, when they think about consumption, right, and that's why I love meditation and the contemplative traditions. I think it was Technocon. I went to hear him speak one time at UCI in Irvine, and he was talking about the dining hall where him and his fellow monks would go, and they would not speak, of course, because they were contemplating not just the food that they were consuming, but all the information that they let in, through their five senses. And what were they letting in? And he was talking about Western civilization and this mass consumption that people have been encouraged to um, become consumers versus creators of their life.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Yeah.
So I want to get to this bit because you were talking about this special frequency that was particularly healing for you and that you played it around your house. And if I'm not mistaken, your healing business is called,
So my healing business is called 528.
oh,
Um,
528. Okay.
yes, so 422, very, very, very sentimental for me because it is where I started. How I kind of learned about vibration. The very first thing I was taught um,
From your mentor,
was, huh?
the man that helped you.
Yes, yes, yes.
Uh-huh.
From Bob, was the power of water. The
Ah,
Masuru Emoto.
yes.
Um, he taught me how to put our sessions, facing in on the water and to drink it with intention of letting that go. And I
Mm,
learned that that's where I started, kind of grabbing onto vibration. What is this frequency that you're having me hold? What is happening when this is happening? And what's happening to my body? So I went home and I would listen to it constantly. I found YouTube, healing frequencies.
mm-hmm.
And I branched out. I started experimenting. 432, 528, 369. There's so many. They heal different parts of your body. Uh, and actually my daughter at the time, I believe, was 17. And the one day I didn't play them, she came out of her room and said, where's the music? My day has been all off at school. Everything's different. I don't feel right. And I thought, oh my gosh, if a teenager is picking this up and it's making her body react differently to her day, what is it
Yeah.
doing for me? And that really started my search, into frequency, vibration, MetaHealing, biofeedback. So when it came time
Like,
to name the
I have a
business,
witness. I have a witness.
yes, it
Yeah.
was that was, I knew I wanted it to give back to the frequency world and say, pay attention. These are really shifting our body. So 528, of course, is the miracle frequency of love. So
Okay.
that's why we did that. It's, it just imbues everything that we're trying to do.
Well, I think this is so interesting because, they say that the human eye can only see 1% of all the light, like all the visible light, the electromagnetic fields. But yet we are so affected by this invisible world that we can't see, like our cell phones, all the electronic equipment, the 5G, and now they have 10G or something. And it's just like, wow, you can't see it, but that's like shifting our genetic and human frequency to a certain degree. I believe that, and even, I don't know if this is true, and I don't know if you've heard this, but even they said, I don't know, in the 1960s or 70s, they started shifting the musical frequency in which most
Yeah.
music was played in. Have you heard that?
Yeah, 432 is the music. So that's exactly what they kind of took away. And so
Yes.
the last songs you can find with that, I believe, was the Beatles. One of their most famous ones, and I can never remember the name, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. No worries.
But
You can,
yes, a lot of classical was played with 432. It resonated with the body. It did different things for the mind. I mean, baby Mozart, it makes you smarter.
yeah.
That's what they were playing off of. But these things were taken from us, as a lot of things. I mean, if you research energy and vibration and frequency goes back to the 1920s. They were already proving that it was healing our bodies, that it could heal certain things that were
Yeah.
disease.
And that Mother Earth has a frequency in herself, and our bodies are made of her, right?
Mhm.
So it would make sense that that is our home frequency, and when we're not in it or we're constantly kicked out of it by our lifestyle, that creates a level of incoherence that most people aren't even aware of.
Exactly. Exactly. We were just talking about it recently. It's kind of like dancing. So if you're dancing but you're off beat and you're on the dance floor but you're completely off, you're going to know it, you're going to feel it, but you're not going to know exactly how to get back into beat if you've never danced that dance. The
Yeah.
people around you can see you're off beat, but they can't quite tell you how to dance that dance either. But you get a dance instructor and you get your body in the beat,
Hmm.
you're completely in coherence.
Yeah.
Everything starts to make sense about this dance. It becomes easier and easier. And then
Hmm.
you just automatically know how to do it. Now it comes to you naturally. That's how our body is. It just needs
Hmm.
to remember there's so many toxins coming at us with our
Yeah.
own mind, especially. And then you've got all the outside influences. And
Yeah.
everything we breathe in, we eat, we watch, we listen, everything is a certain, the way we take it in our mind can be very toxic to our body
Hmm.
and just
Yeah.
knock you out of coherence without you even knowing. Um,
Yeah.
You step aside your body and your body will do the healing. It's the biggest thing. It knows how. We just need to provide the pathway to remember. Yeah, it's very powerful. There's just I almost don't, I provide a space for healing. I
Yeah.
wouldn't consider myself the healer. You know, there
You're a
I
feedback
provide
giver.
a space,
Yeah.
yeah, and modalities for people to use to open the pathways, but for everybody, it will fall into the perfect timing for them.
Yeah.
There's something there
Mhm.
about that too.
Well, it's also, it's like, I don't know, you mentioned about growing up with a family that clearly had some trauma that you inherited, right? And so many people that it's become normal, like
Mhm.
that level of emotional and psychological stress and suffering, that people don't even have the capacity to recognize the the um, the damage. And when I say damage, I mean that how it affects the nervous system, the energy body, and really is a level of, I know for me personally, I'm speaking from experience, a level of disconnect from my own energy body in order to survive in a family that was disconnected.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. I would fully agree.
yeah. So our friend Gabor Mate, I don't know if you have read his work or listened to any of his books or read his books, but he has a really good book called The Myth of Normal. And it's about the normalization of trauma on so many levels. And like, what is it going to take for people to start claiming their health, like reclaiming their health
Mhm.
as a birthright? So I think that's so powerful. So you and your partner, Tom Garland, started your biofeedback energy healing, and you guys do nutritional supplements as well. And yeah, you tell me about it.
We actually met and started kind of collaborating ideas. He comes from one side of he's a Vedic astrologer for over 20 years. He's a holistic life coach, things like that. But he jumped into the world and did his thing to raise his kids, and worked his IT career for 15 years, all the while studying what he really was passionate about.
Yeah.
I don't think he saw his life, kind of coming to this point where all of a sudden he meets someone who knows about frequency and vibration, and he realizes, and I realized that, oh, they come together. They're all in one.
Yeah, different
The
lenses
Vedic
for this.
astrology, I can't speak on that side of that. He is the one to do that for sure, but there is something about the universe and kind of our birth charts and the path that we're on, which is scientific history. It's a language of the
Yeah.
movement of our lives, that is so powerful. I can be on my biofeedback machine running someone, and he can take the same information and look through their chart and get to
Uh-huh.
the same conclusion as me. That is mind blowing. That is mind blowing. Even down to the physicalities, down to the
Yeah.
physicalities that you will be facing, once your body becomes out of coherence. It's already kind of, our bodies will take it on in different ways. That's why we all have disease in different parts. And we
Yeah.
may have been through similar things.
Mm.
But it can be told through looking at it that way. So the
Yeah.
combination was so amazing for us. We took 2 years to really just pull it all together and figure out these perfect combinations that we could build to open these pathways for people and have everything they would need along the way. Because once you start opening, you come in with a stomach ache, but you're going to leave knowing that stomach ache was probably caused from something you're not even relating it to. And it could have been 15 years ago and building. It could have been 2 years ago and very traumatic. Um, but to have all the things that you would need to facilitate that healing along the way as a life coach if need be, or even get deeper into where you might be going. We've kind of pulled it all together and made some beautiful programs and systems. So
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's so hard for many people to imagine that the physical symptoms that they're having are there because we're not listening to our body the first time, and then we don't listen the second time, and we don't listen the third time, and finally the body's like, okay, well, this is what I'm whipping up for you. So
yeah,
maybe start listening to what you need to do to get us back in balance or homeostasis or whatever you want to call it.
yes, that's exactly what's happening. It's I say people usually walk through the door when they've given up. There's
They're
nobody
like,
can
what do I have to lose?
yeah,
I'll give
they've given
Tallisha a
up.
try. Yeah.
It's gone too far.
No, I think that many people, at least my experience, and not only as a coach, but as someone on a spiritual path of self-healing, realized that there are things that the mind just doesn't understand, but that doesn't mean that they're real and they're not affecting our everyday interactions. And it's just so amazing. To me, every single time I'm still amazed of what happens when you go under the conscious mind. I mean, all the information is there. It's in your body. It's
Yeah.
in your subconscious mind. And it's just waiting. It's like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes,
Are you
that's
listening? Can you hear me?
exactly. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what we want to do. We want to pass this knowledge to people. You have it. It's
Yeah.
in you. We want you to take it. Build your toolbox. Pull
Yeah.
out what you need, because everybody's going to take a little something different. And some things are going to hit people in a different way that don't hit others. Maybe
Yeah.
something you said, maybe a session you had. But the big part of it is we forgot about this electrical part of our body that sometimes needs to be stimulated. And
Well, I mean, it's really the source of life itself. I mean, it's
right.
what's animating our body and making our brain work, and it's invisible. So people are like, but then when you go like to the hospital, what do? They give you what's it called, the EKG, which is they're measuring the electric pulse of your heart, for example, and you're like,
Yes.
dude, you know?
Yeah.
You're like, and and the disconnect is still so prevalent, because the certain lens in which science has been, and I'm not giving them a hard time. I mean, there's incredible things that the medical field does,
Mhm.
um, but as far as some of these chronic issues and things that people have been suffering from and haven't had any, um, success through Western
Yeah.
medicine, that.
Well, the biggest thing is giving your body the environment, and it will follow suit. And by giving it the environment, it seems so simple, but just some frequencies to remind, because we have our own individual frequency, you
Yeah.
know, and we
Yeah.
all are vibrating. It's just a reminder to our bodies. We're opening that pathway. You build the environment for the
You
healing,
got it.
and your body will
Yeah,
do it.
and to empower people to be a stand for their own health and that they can do it, I think is huge. So we just have a few minutes left here, and there's a couple things I just wanted to finish up with you about in our conversation. While you were speaking about frequency and vibration, I was thinking of, do you know that book, Power versus Force by David Hawkins? He has a map, an energy map of all the emotions and then their
Oh,
frequencies.
yes, 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 yes. I have that. Yes. It's just not right
I was
here
going
right
to
now. I
say
use it
most
to show
energy.
clients. It's the ladder of consciousness, right?
I don't know the official name, but I like that. Yes, the
Yes.
ladder of consciousness. And so, yeah, it's really a good visual, I think, to support people in like thinking about how their emotions are affecting their physical bodies. But I think for a lot of people that they don't, it's like, I don't have any control over my emotions. Like, that's just how I feel right now, And so, what for people that are listening, maybe they're new to this and this is like maybe a new idea. Um, what would you like recommend for people to start like taking taking charge of like getting in line with like their body awareness and their frequency and where they're operating at? Um, like what do you suggest to people outside of coming to see you in your office and actually receiving an energy treatment?
So, to start receiving frequency, I mean, the simplest form is to start self-talk to yourself.
Yeah.
It changes right here. From the moment you wake up, it's so true. Everything we tell ourselves is exactly how our body's going to act. That is how we're going to raise our vibration, is by
Yeah.
raising our consciousness to provide our thought process with not such negative thoughts, or removing some things that might be negative around us, being very aware of who's in your energy field, how
Yeah.
you feel after somebody leaves your energy field,
Mm-hmm.
to keep your vibration vibrating high. There's, you can do a salt bath, you can simply wipe, wipe the
Yeah,
energy
yeah.
off. um my biggest thing that I tell people who say they don't have time to meditate, they don't have time for this, um, is to start playing frequencies. Dabble with it. Start looking up. If maybe you have chronic migraine headaches, you can look up a frequency for migraine headaches. There are several. 432 is powerful. All body healing. If you let
Mm-hmm.
that play, your body is absorbing it all the time, even when you're not thinking about it. I let my body do it all night long. I have it on all night long. That's when my body's healing anyways. I'm taking in all of those frequencies. So my body is very aligned in the morning. And
Yeah.
you will start to realize the frequencies that don't resonate with you as well. You will know in the morning, you'll feel a little off. Not all
Yeah.
frequencies are made for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're all kind of vibrating differently. But to start dabbling, you will start to feel a difference. And then that is your journey. You follow it one step at a time. It will lead you to the next step, to the next
Mhm.
step. Um, you because your body starts remembering. And
Yeah.
that's the most powerful thing you can do.
Yeah, and this is really literally sound medicine.
Mhm.
You know, like
Yeah,
that's where
it
they got it
is.
from.
It is.
Sound healing is literally a thing, because it's a vibration which we're all operating on, even though our conscious mind is not aware of it. So, all right. So, bottom line, Tallisha, any parting words and a wisdom? And I appreciate you sharing those suggestions in regards to um, choosing our thoughts intentionally, being aware of our surroundings and people that are in it and situations that might be bringing our frequency down, and then also intentionally like playing these healing frequencies in our space.
Definitely. Um, Yeah, all of that. The food we take in, like you had said in the beginning, you have to think about it all.
Yeah,
Everything that animal took in, what you're taking in, there's energy in everything. So just
yeah,
just being aware is the first step, and taking the steps to make sure you're not lowering your vibration. Um,
yeah,
so it is the easiest step, is just to start listening and follow the
yeah.
path that your intuition will naturally lead you on.
Yeah, and I think it's scary for people because, as you said, it's like many people have years of repressed energy through emotion. And it's scary to the ego mind because that's why the ego is actually exist to repress
Hmm.
that. And
Right.
then and so once that little door starts opening, um, a whole shift is possible. So I'm gonna include all of your contact information to your website and So if anybody listening today wants to get in touch with you, you're located in Grants Pass, Oregon, I believe. Is that right? Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
But you also do telehealth, I'm sure.
Yeah, I do remote biofeedback. I can pick up everything that's going on in your body from a distance as well through quantum physics. It's
Yeah.
connecting to your vibrating energy. So, yeah, people don't realize it. This travels. Our vibration travels so far, and so by that I can start looking at physicalities, and we can get down into emotions and where it's leading. There's just so many places you can go with it, but I do recommend starting there. You can do that remotely. um yeah, so
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to connect and that you were able to take some time to join me today. I know that everyone listening will truly benefit from your words of wisdom and insight. So thank you for your time. And until next time, everyone, thanks for taking a listen and tuning in into this into conversations around healing, wholeness, and integrated sense of self that is truly available and possible. um, Tallisha is living proof, right, of her own journey to health, and now that she gets to share it with other people. All right. Thanks again, everyone, for stopping by and taking a listen. If something you heard here today resonated or made sense to you, please take a moment to like, share, or leave a comment. Listeners like you help my listenership grow, and I really do appreciate it. If there are any topics or guests that you would like to recommend or want to find out more about, please let me know. Reach out on any of my social media platforms and fill me in. Until next time, please remember what a valuable treasure you are, and see you next week.